Hi, ladies. Deidre here.
Hey, Carmen here. So, if you haven't met us yet, we are the co founders of Encore Empire, where we take the guesswork out of scaling your online business for results you can't get with any other coaching program. We are committed to providing you with the strategies, systems, and support you need to build a profitable business.
Now, it is easy to become mired in the day to day running of your business. And how do we know this? Because it happens to us and it happens to all the clients we work with, and it happens to every person that we talk to who's in business. But when you are the CEO, you've got to hone the skill of looking at your business from different vantage points. Because without perspective and objectivity, we lose sight of what's really happening or the possibilities and opportunities that await us. And it is essential to cultivate the ability to switch vantage points frequently. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, for those of you here watching us, we're live streaming in the Empire of Unstoppable Women Facebook group on YouTube and LinkedIn. So, say hello. For those of you watching the replay, type hashtag replay so we know you were here as well. Now, if you saw our email on Sunday, you know that we took a little trip to the airport to discover some of the many dimensions of business. And we're going to go deeper today into focus, goal setting, and vision. Now, this whole analogy has always resonated with me, and it's a way that I've always used this in making sure that I'm looking at all the levels of my business. The reason it resonates so well for me, part of it is because my dad and my brother were both pilots. My dad was in the Air Force, and because they were both private pilots, there was a whole lot of flight talk around the house. There were always, trips to the airfield, and almost every gift that was ever given to each of them at a certain point was airplane related, right? Like there's a collection of airplanes all over the house. So um this is you know coming up and being brought up around that, like, I got to hear all the lingo, and I got to see for myself, like, what did it really take to be a pilot. And I always related that to business because business has always been my passion. And so we're going to dive into that and kind of give you this analogy, because I think it also helps us to be able to retain what we're talking about here, and it gives you something to kind of visualize so that you can improve how you are managing your business.
So, let's talk about focus first. We're going to talk about these three areas: focus, goal setting, and vision. So, focus, let's get back into this whole trip to the airport. I love that email that went out on Sunday. It's like one of my favorite ones because it's fun. It's like we're on a trip to the airport to see what we can see and how do we relate that to the business. And so, once in our seats in the airplane, we have a particular vantage point. We can see the tarmac and surrounding areas. And this represents the dimensions of here and now. You're grounded and you can see what's right in front of you, and that's focus. Focus is our favorite F word. Focus is needed in order to gain traction to move your business forward. And we need to be focused to be able to determine our next best steps and learn from them. So without focus, we're going to be, you know, lost. You're going to be jumping from this to this to this, and you're not going to gain traction. And we always talk about the importance of repetition equal leads to mastery, and it's so true. So you have to have the focus to know what to do, to keep working at it, to understand all the idiosyncrasies or the nuances of what it is you're doing. So we always promote narrowing your niche. That's another thing we talk about. And that in essence is narrowing your focus, right? So when you try to be something to everybody, it's like the shotgun approach. You're shooting the shotgun, hoping it'll hit the right target, right? But you don't know that. You know it's going to hit something, but is it the right thing? And so narrowing your niche and focusing and hitting the target audience, hopefully not with a gun, but you get the analogy here, is that the way to do it. You want to narrow in on and focus on the exact right people. And in order to do that, you have to narrow in and focus on the exact right steps to take to reach those people. And so focus allows you to attain mastery. And it's extremely important to not only everyday business, but it plays an important role in planning out your next 1, 3, and 5 years. So, for example, without focus, you won't learn the nuances of working with a particular type of client, let's say. And if you don't do that, you're not going to know, you're not going to have the information, because nuances inform whether or not you want to lean into that niche or you want to avoid them, right? So, if you're not really mastering what you do and focusing in and paying attention and learning from every single thing, you're not going to get those nuances. And so you're not going to be able to make a real educated decision about what your next steps are going to be. The same thing applies to your offers or how you serve your clients. It can apply to anything. When you need to decide how you're going to move your business forward, you first need to understand and be focused in the here and now before you can make a plan for then. And this leads us nicely into goal setting, which Deidre is going to talk about next.
All right. So as we taxi down the runway, okay, everybody visualize this. We're in our seats, we're taxiing down the runway. And so now we are entering the dimension of possibility. So we're on the move and we are headed to a new destination. Now, if you have been on a flight before, especially if it's for vacation, you know how this feels, right? You're excited. You've got all this anticipation going because you're like, we are on our way. You know, after all the hard work of getting packed, making arrangements to get away, you know, checking all the baggage, waiting around for an hour and a half, you know, all that we have to do in order to get onto a flight. You know, it's a lot of work, right? And it's a lot of waiting and it can be frustrating. Well, it's kind of like that in business too, right? We have those moments where that's what it feels like. But then, you know, we're setting our goals and that's when the excitement comes in. So in order to, you know, get those goals and to maintain that sense of excitement and anticipation, we have to build the plan in order to reach the goal. Right? It's the journey there. So we know where the destination is, but we're not going to get to the destination unless we have, you know, certain stops along the way. So let's think of, you know, if you're on a flight, maybe it's not a direct flight, like you're going to have to stop off, you know, at a couple different places on your way. So like especially if you're going someplace far away. So we have to have a plan, and the pilot has a flight plan. Right? Because he can't just jump in the plane and say, okay, everybody come on. And I'm just going to take off and we're just going to go and we'll get there eventually, right? Like you don't want to get on a flight like that. So you really have to have this action plan in order to support the goal setting. And the way that you can do this is one thing we found very, very effective is to work in seasons or quarters. Basically what that is, and you may have heard this before. In fact, I just was recommended to read a book that I just got from Amazon today, and I'm excited to read it, but it's called The 12-Week Year. And it is based on this principle. I'm sure there's more to it, and I'll keep you posted as I read through it. But basically, we are working in 90-day increments or 12 weeks. And in that 90-day period, we want to set up 3 goals that is going to get us to the destination by the end of the year. So we all do our goal setting for the year, right? So we set all these goals. They're pretty big. It's going to take some time to get there, but we have to iterate our way to it. And sometimes that goal's so big, that destination is so far away that we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to take us forever to get there. So we want to break this down into quarters. And by focusing on, we're reverse engineering and we're taking the big goal. We're saying, okay, what do I need to do in these 4 90-day increments in order to ensure that I hit that goal? Okay. So again, this is like having those connecting flights, right? So like if you want to go to Hawaii, you may have to stop off a couple times before you actually get over to the island. So it's the same kind of thing. Now, when you reverse engineer this down, we have to bring it all the way back down to that first level. We have to break it down to monthly, and we have to break it down to weekly, and sometimes even daily. So to get to that destination, think of it as mile by mile by mile, right? And so that's how we have to look at goal setting. And we want to be sure that the goal setting is enough. If you get on the plane and you sit down and you're like, I'm so excited, we're going on a trip, but the plane never takes off, well, that excitement and anticipation all goes away, right? What if there's a delay? What if there's bad weather and you're not moving? Well, then you get frustrated, right? Well, this is what happens when we set goals and we don't have the plan to support them, and we don't have a manageable framework in which we are putting down those action steps. It is like sitting on the runway and you just can't take off.
That's right. And so the third aspect of this, we've talked about focus, we've talked about goal setting now, but you can't really set your goals without having vision. And so when you started your business, you had a vision. Why did you want to start your business? What is your big why? And what do you envision your business will do for you, your clients, and hopefully the world? We all want to be, most of us, I think, want to make a nice big impact on the world and help others. So let's talk about vision then, again, back at the airport. So as the plane takes off and begins its ascent, we're entering a dimension of vast space and time. And that is kind of what vision is, right? It's vast space and time. It's not focused, it is vast. So our business looks different from up here. We're moving swiftly and effortlessly towards our destination in our mind, right? We can see the vision and we are envisioning it. We can see far and wide, and our vision becomes so clear in regard to what the future might hold for us that also is extremely exciting. And when we're in this realm of visioning, we forget about all the minutia that we were preoccupied with when the plane was at the boarding gate. Remember? And we were in focus mode, and you're in the here and now. When you're in the here and now versus goal setting versus vision, they're all three very different levels. And Deirdre mentioned at the beginning of this, before we started, the importance of being able to shift your vantage point from one to the other. Because if you get stuck in focus, and that would be, busy to do work and day-to-day activities and the minutia, you're going to wear yourself out because you are just focusing on do, and am I going to get there? And then if you don't ever take the time to pop your head up and look and see, is what I'm doing working by doing your goal setting, and are you achieving those goals, and are you reaching the goal that you wanted to do through what you saw in your vision? Then you're going to be frustrated. You're going to burn yourself out, and that's very, very possible. The other thing is that when we have our vision, we have the objectivity to look at our business from farther away. We're not in the business, we're looking at the business. And when we can do that in relation to what else is going on in the industry or the world or with our competitors or with our clients, that helps make course corrections, right? So Deirdre talked about that pilots have flight plans. Well, we need to know, when do we have to course correct? And we're not going to know that if we're stuck down in day-to-day do work, right? And we're not paying attention to, well, where are we actually heading? We won't get anywhere, because if we don't know where we're going, we're not going to get there. And if we're running into something that is going to cause a problem and we aren't aware of it because we're not shifting into another vantage point of our business, then we're going to not be able to course correct. And that's also another thing to consider when we're talking about the altitude strategy.
That's right. Now, if you guys have any questions or comments, or, if any of this is resonating with you, please put that in the comments, because we love to hear your comments. Say hi. We love to see that you're here with us. Now, it's really important not to spend all your time in one vantage point. Like Carmen talked about this, we can't always be down in the here and now and the busyness, right? Of like the day to day of what we're doing. But at the same time, we can't get into goal setting and stay there, right? Because if you're just setting goals and then resetting goals and then setting goals again, and you're not actually putting together and spending time in the focus, well, then the goal is never going to happen, right? You're never going to reach it. But at the same time, we have to check our vision, right? We have to see where we're going, because like Carmen said, we could be off course. And we have to check our instruments, just like the pilot does. And those instruments are our metrics. Those are the things that we know are indicating, are we on course? Are we achieving the results that we set out for? Are we going to hit those milestones to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves? So that's where metrics comes into all of this. The opposite is true too. Like some people are down into hyper focus mode all the time, but we can also spend so much time in this vision area. It's like having your head in the clouds, right? Like you're always dreaming about it, you're thinking about it, and we need that time, and we need to do it, and we need to stay connected, because like Carmen said, it can get the trip can be rocky. We can hit turbulence. We can run into a storm. It may not be the smoothest flight that you've ever been on, but by thinking about the destination, by having an attachment to the vision of knowing what's on the other side of all of this, that's what gets you through. And it is the same thing for your business. So we can't stay with our head in the clouds all the time, because nothing's going to get done, and we're definitely not going to get anywhere. But at the same time, we have to regularly be checking in and keep that vision in our forefront, like to feel it, to know it, to see it on a regular basis, because that is what will motivate us to get through the obstacles, the challenges, and this learning curve that is entrepreneurship. So what we suggest is that you set aside the appropriate time, not just to make the flight plan, setting the goals, but also to review your flight plan and your progress. And this is where those metrics come in. And by having that system we talked about, that 90-day, working in those 90-day containers, you can't get too far off course. If you're doing the work and you're focused on the work, then when you hit the end of that 90 days, then you can look back and say, did this turn out like I expected? Did I do what I said I was going to do? And did it bring the result that I said that I wanted to achieve? And if that's the case, then you're on course, and then you can just move on to the next one. So I want to leave you with this thought, is to always ask yourself, are you on course? And do you have the flight plan to get to your destination? And is there any area where you need to adjust? Do you feel like you maybe have gone off course a little bit? And do you need to adjust it? So those are the questions we would challenge you to really sit down and think about, and to build in this time. Don't get so busy that you don't have time to make these assessments, because that is the role of the CEO. And even as a solopreneur or a solopreneur with helpers, that is still your role. And it's what's going to take you from where you are to where you want to be.
That's right. So we want to find out if anyone has questions, drop them in. If you're watching the replay, drop them in there as well, because we will get notified and we'll make sure that you get answers to your questions. Let us know what you thought about this. Does this resonate? This whole vantage point thing, focus, goal setting, and vision. Do you implement that? Is that something new to you? Let us know what you think about it. It's one of our favorite topics. I think that it's extremely important. I think people really miss the boat or the plane a lot if they don't shift their vantage point. So drop your questions as you have them. And then we also want to invite you to join us for speed networking tomorrow. So tomorrow at 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern, we're going to have our monthly speed networking event, which is always so much fun. And you can find information about that and RSVP inside the Empire of Unstoppable Women Facebook group. And we hope to see you then.